Because millions of our people have been brainwashed to hate those of us who tell the truth, a speaker of truth therefore has very few friends. Nonetheless, those who know the truth must teach African proverb. We must teach the truth whether it fills the room or clears it out. We must post the truth whether we're hated for it, berated for it, blocked for it, or unfriended for it. We must teach the truth regardless of who it offends. Because we are called to awaken the sleeping black sheep, not to appease the mentally enslaved ones that are now functioning as wardens of their own mental prisons. The absolute truth is that black people will never free our minds believing in a biblical fairy tale nor a silly slave syndrome myth. When black people formulates our liberation based upon easily proven works of fiction, we're in fact making fools of ourselves. Because when we do so, when we assign our real life oppression onto works of fiction, doing so is literally as ridiculous as a child marching off to war carrying a toy gun. Both the Bible and the Willie Lynch letter are both falsehoods that actually are being used to keep our collective minds distracted from learning the truth that sets us free. Our core problem is that the ignorant ones have been made overconfident and the intelligent ones have been made self-doubting. This scenario has allowed the false beliefs held by the ignorant ones to prevail throughout our communities, mentally enslaving the black masses, being trapped by misinformation and therefore mentally enslaved by the white society. Please allow me to intelligently explain to you the truth of our planted condition. Within this video, I'm going to explain the true reason why black people are often negatively perceived by others. Many black people often ask the question of why are we often so negatively perceived by others? Moreover, it's often the case globally. Often when we travel abroad, we often encounter those same reactions and same perceptions. Many black people have internalized those encounters and have concluded that there's something inherently wrong with us. Some have even concluded that perhaps we're cursed. Whenever people are kept ignorant of the truth, they'll always believe nonsense. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb. The true reason why black people are often negatively perceived is because our images and our narratives are being negatively distorted by white oppressive forces. The white society writes all of our narratives and they control all of our mainstream media images, all of them. We don't know anything about ourselves collectively that did not come from the white society. This was a fact that many of us not realize. The white society literally controls also how we perceive ourselves and how others perceive us. The white society literally owns the perception of black people. It's a fact that white oppressive forces has transformed into their greatest weapon against black people. They've always created false narratives that exalt themselves while marginalizing us in order to create a false perception that they are inherently superior to us. This creates false assumptions within the society that aids them in maintaining their social dominance and social capital over us. They've also always vilified and dehumanized us in order to make others insensitive to our plight. It's how they manufactured societal consent for their mistreatments of us. It's a propaganda tactic that's called manufactured consent to mistreat. They've always deployed this nefarious tactic against us, always have. Case, point, and proof. When the white society exploited their weaponry advantage of guns, rifles, and cannons to invade Africa and brutally enslave Africans, they then created the false narrative that we Africans were uncivilized and illiterate savages, and that therefore their invasion and enslavement of us was for our own benefit. They created that false narrative and then imposed it upon the world. The global community began functioning based upon that false narrative as if it was true. It's how the white society manufactured global consent for their invasion and enslavement of Africans, and is still believed today by millions. It's the reason why Florida Governor DeSantis said that slavery benefited African Americans. And the narrative has also been used to justify not giving reparations to African Americans. However, the narrative that Africans were illiterate and uncivilized before the Europeans invaded is totally untrue. It's a false narrative. Long before the Europeans invaded Africa, it was Africans that civilized Europe. All of Greece's first scholars were educated by Africans. The world's first scholars were in fact Africans. The world's oldest university, library, manuscript, encyclopedia, human prosthetic, mathematical tools, medical journals, and the world's oldest standing kingdom are all located in Africa. Africans are the first to build in stone and to smelt metal. Africans introduced science, writing, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy to the world. Africans invented the wheel, paper, the solar calendar, the concept of 24 hours in a day, the 365-day calendar, the clock, the leap year, organized labor, surgical instruments, cosmetic, the plow, black ink, ink pen, shoes, high-heeled shoes, condoms, hair wigs, hair dyes, makeup, hairbrush, comb, chisel, paved roads, governments. Africans also introduced shaving and the daily bath to Europeans. And because the great achievements made by Africa's ancient Egyptians refutes the white society's lies that Africans were illiterate and uncivilized, they created the lie that Africa's ancient Egyptians were not Africans, but were instead ridiculously Europeans. However, all scientific facts irrefutably proves that they were in fact Africans. The geographical location of Egypt is in Africa. And radiocarbon date testings have scientifically proven that the ancient kingdom was built by Africans many thousands of years long before the arrival of the first Arabs and the first Europeans during the 7th century. Also, hair sample testings, melanin concentration skin testings, bone density testings, and DNA genetic testings have all scientifically irrefutably proven that Africa's ancient Egyptians were in fact Africans. Their DNA matched current-day sub-Saharan Africans. The white society sits upon a throne of white exalting and black marginalizing lies. There's even more. Through their monopoly over information and media images that are fed into our society, the white ruling class have manipulated millions to believe that most inventions that have revolutionized the world were invented by Caucasians, and to also perceive black people as being the leeches of the society that haven't invented much throughout history. Many black children graduate from high school believing that all we invented was peanut butter. But the truth of the matter is the exact opposite from what they've manipulated millions to believe. Everything you believe in white society is a lie. Here's the truth. After slavery was abolished in the U.S. in 1865, and in spite of receiving no reparations and being constantly plagued by white racist subjugation tactics, from 1870 through 1940, African Americans submitted 726 invention patent applications to the U.S. Patent Office. Not only is this an extraordinary achievement under those noted circumstances and being so closely following slavery, but this number of inventions more than doubled those applications submitted by Caucasians during the same time frame, and in spite of the fact that African Americans made up less than 3% of the entire population. This is amazing. And this scenario of black people outpacing Caucasians in the inventions of revolutionizing inventions has never stopped. It's merely concealed from the general public through the white society's monopoly over information and media images that are fed to the public. The hidden reality and facts are that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustices of white racism and slavery, Most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by Black people or were directly inspired by early inventions made by Black people. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. Without Black people, there would exist no motors, no automobiles, no airplanes, no helicopters. Without Black people, we would not have skyscrapers. We only have skyscrapers because Black people invented the elevator, the fire extinguisher, the fire escape ladder, air conditioning, and heating systems, which are essential in order for people to live or work in skyscrapers. Without Black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras or microphones on our cell phones had it not been for Black inventors. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting systems. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope. There would be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aid, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security system, no home game cartridge systems, no steam engines, no traffic lights. Without Black people, there would exist no refrigerators, no refrigerated trucks, therefore no ice cream trucks, no blood banks, no dry cleaning, no lawnmowers, no pencil sharpeners, no doorknobs, no 3D movies, etc., etc. Black people have in fact enriched nearly the aspect of every person's on this planet, their lives. We've enriched the lives of every person on this planet. This fact has been deliberately concealed from the general public through the white society's monopoly over information and media images that are fed into our society. They've intentionally falsely marginalized the past existence of Black people. You see, all you have to do is keep repeating lies through media ads, falsely scripted movies, whitewashed history book, therefore miseducation, and then before long, the majority of the population will then accept those lies rather than what's true. Those lies will become the truth that the public then functions based upon. This is what the white society has done. Also, in order for Black inventors to get their inventions mass produced, they have to go before white companies. These white companies acquires the rights to the inventions made by Black people and then places white faces in front of the invention. The patent office has always been used to steal the intellectual property rights from Black people. This scenario allows the white society to continue exploiting the great intellectual minds of Black people while maintaining the perception that most inventions are coming from white people and that Black people are the leeches of society that hasn't invented much. This aids in maintaining their social dominance when it's actually the genius minds of Black people that move the world forward. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generations, the truth will seem absolutely ridiculous and its speaker will sound like a raving lunatic. Nonetheless, the truth is the truth, regardless if everybody believes the lie. The white society sits upon a throne of white exalting and Black marginalizing lies. Don't be fooled. If the oppressors were truly superior, they wouldn't have to distort so many facts and tell so many lies to convey it. Nor would they have to work so hard to handicap a people they deem as being inferior. When I hear Black people speaking negatively about ourselves, I always hold my head because I say, oh, here's a brainwashed one. Here's one who doesn't research facts for himself. Here's someone who just blindly accepts the lies the white society tells us. And the white society constantly feeds lies to us that exalts themselves and marginalizes us. Social science describes this as instilling a value system into the minds of Black people that makes us feel subservient towards whites and therefore more compliant with their white dominance over our lives. All societies function based upon the information that are fed into our society. And the information fed into the white dominant society are distorted to aid the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social capital over the Black population. Everything that you believe is negative about Black people are lies that come from white society. And there's no Black person can confirm his negative assessments because all of his negative assessment comes from the white society, from the white society that maintains their control and dominance over us by marginalizing our narratives, by negatively distorting our narratives. It's time to wake up to our reality. One love and peace.